without further ado, I'm very happy to introduce the Global Editing Perspectives panel, moderated from the Netherlands by Joop Terberg, ACE-NCE. Take it away, Joop.
So welcome everyone to the Global Editing Perspectives panel. I hope that most of you are aware of ACE's International Relation Committee, and as it has been inviting the very best editors from around the world to become international partners of ACE in their International Partnership Program. This committee is also dedicated to showcasing those editors and their work. And a very cool thing that is coming out of that committee and is going to be introduced this year is the Global Perspectives podcast, Global Editing Perspectives podcast, a series of talks with some of these incredible editors. It will be available on ACE's YouTube channel, so be sure to check that out and like and subscribe while you're at it, because that seems to be the craze these days. Also, ACE is a member of Tempo. Tempo is the International Federation of Film Editors Organizations. It has some 30 member organizations from all around the world, representing thousands of editors across the globe. And Tempo is a proud partner of this panel, and the people of Tempo has helped us connect to some of the amazing editors from all over the world that we're having here today. We're going to dive into them. So maybe we'll just do a brief introduction round. Welcome to my five wonderful colleagues, peers, guests from around the globe here. So great to have you here on this Editfest global event. So maybe if you can just briefly do an introduction of yourself so we can hear you talk and get a face and a name and a sound with you all. So maybe Danny, you could start.
Hi, I'm Danny Cooper. I've been an editor since 1994 and mostly cut feature films and television drama. I'm currently based in Australia, but I have worked internationally from about 96 to 2017 in London, the US and Canada. You may have seen or heard of the remake of Battlestar Galactica, of which I did the pilot and some of the series, or the Sapphires, directed by Wayne Blended in 2012.
Pablo, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Pablo. I have been based in LA for 3 years. I was born in Argentina, and I've been editing for over 20 years. I have edited more than 50 films, and you may have seen or heard The Box, The Sludge Sieve, Truman, Wild Tales, or The Iron.
Awesome, thank you so much. And then Monica, can you introduce yourself?
My name is Monica Mugo. Began editing back in 2012. Edited a lot of documentaries and feature films. Currently, I'm post-supervising 8-episode series for Netflix. Also, I've participated in quite a few international projects since 2019. Some as an assistant editor and some as the main editor, which have been on Arte, and some have been nominated for Sundance and Cannes. Yeah.
Very cool, thank you. Laurent, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, great to be here with all these colleagues. My name is Laurent Sénéchal. I'm based in France. I've been working as an assistant editor and editor since 2000. And I'm mostly editing feature film now. And you may have heard of Anatomy of a Fall, which was the previous Palme d'Or in Cannes. We were very lucky, and it also was nominated for Best Film by the Academy during last March season, and I had the great honor to be nominated as well as for Best Editing, and it was a great journey.
You mentioned it because otherwise we would have mentioned it. Yeah, that's amazing. Congrats. Thanks for being here. And then Azusa, can you briefly introduce yourself?
Yeah, I will try. My name is Asa Yamazaki. Thank you for this amazing invitation. And I'm based in Tokyo, Japan. And I have cut in various fields, the feature films, documentary programs, and Japanese TV dramas, stuff like that, since 2014. Okay, yeah, and
Yeah,
among these, Drive My Car that you have heard, it's expanded my cut life. Yes, thank you.
and you were nominated for that as well, right? Let's just stress that we have some great award-winning editors here on our panel. That is awesome. I'm so glad to have you all here. We've asked, as is customary with these panels, we've asked all of you to bring a clip from work that you've worked on recently, that you have a story to tell about or anything like that. And since it's so important for ACE and for the IRC and for Tempo as well to get to sort of showcase that work as well and to get to know you and your work. My proposal is to dive into those clips immediately. So I would like to ask Danny, is that something you need to set up? Like if we want to watch the clip from Carmen that you chose, is that maybe something to set up? Like what are we going to see? And then afterwards we can talk about your thoughts about it, but maybe you can set it up.
Well, Carmen is a sort of fever dream dance piece directed by Benjamin Milpied, which was shot in Australia and edited in Australia, and it's not a musical. It's more, I would call it a fever dream. And the scene I'm about to show you is the climax of the whole film, and it resembles a music video in a way. I think I wanted to show it because I quite often get comments about my work that it's slow and it's beautiful and it's measured. And I thought I wanted to show something with a little bit of energy for a change.
Very good.
So it is 4 minutes long. So, if you like to cut it down, you're welcome to.
Great. Let's roll that. That's a wonderful clip, Danny. So can you explain why you picked this particular clip to showcase? I mean, you've alluded to that a little bit already, but
I guess in Australia we don't really cut a lot of action movies, and we don't cut a lot of car chases. So for me, this clip was a little bit like a car chase. It was a culmination of dance. It was highly choreographed. Benjamin hired crumpets from Australia. He trained them. He choreographed the whole thing. They shot with 2 cameras. They shot a lot, and I just really enjoyed the energy of it, and trying to interweave the fight with the choreography of the dance.
Amazing, yeah. So, and I have one other question, which is, so a lot of times we ask on these panels, we ask people like, how did you become an editor? But I would be very interested to learn specifically, how did you become the editor on this project? Were you familiar with the director? Was that a long-standing relationship, or how did that come about?
No, I became an editor because I had a relationship with the production company Goalpost Pictures, who I did the Sapphires with. So I had done a couple of music films with them, and Benjamin reached out to them because he wanted to direct this film in Australia, and we interviewed. I met him. In fact, I met him in this living room on Zoom, and we got on well. And then he hired me, and then I really loved working with him. It was fantastic. Really lovely experience.
Awesome.
Although I didn't speak any French. Yeah. Yeah.
So was that a challenge to overcome on that particular project?
No, because he spoke fluent English. So no, not at all. And I mean, it was. I mean, the film is quite complicated, and there's a lot of other material in it. But that was one scene that, if you see it correctly, it's quite a sensational little piece, and I like the energy of it. I enjoyed working on it. I cut it the beginning of it during COVID, so I like to think of it as my COVID film. So every night after dinner, I would go and I would get a glass of wine and I would play with Pelea, just play with it. And I got my assistant to create a supergroup. I'm assuming you all know what a supergroup is. So I had every camera and every take all linked together, but I had to watch everything all the way through as well, just to find the best moments. And interestingly, we didn't do much split screening on that. We did take out some of the music at various times, and we also we shot pickups, all the close-up material we shot as pickups, because of course when it was originally directed, it was very much about the dance and the people, the stomping of the krompers and the rapper. So
right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So
Well, thank you so much. We will get back to you, but I'm going to continue to the next clip so that we can see as much as we can and then continue the conversation. But thank you so much for that.
Okay.
So next up will be Pablo's clip. I'm wondering, Pablo, do you want to set that up and explain what it is that you've chosen?
The scene we're going to watch is from a film entitled O Horizon, and it's an unreleased film. What we need to know to understand the context of this scene is the main character, Abby, is a scientist who uses an AI app to reconnect with her dead father. So in this scene, Abby is the first time he used this app.
Let's roll that clip. Thank you so much for showing us that clip from a movie that is still unreleased. So it's really a sneak preview into this movie. Can you explain why you picked this clip to show us today?
I think it's always interesting when you are about to sleep, or those kind of situations that reality blends into something that because we don't know exactly what is reality. And nowadays, with this kind of simulation, this prosaic simulation, because if we think our culture do the same, we naming things or something like that, we replace reality in the same way that our application now can do in a real way. So, but for me, it's interesting how maybe we can understand pain, or we can't go forward from some situation, and we need these kind of things to, I don't know, to help us to shape our emotions. And I think it's interesting to play with our perceptions. Huh?
Awesome. Was this a hard scene to cut in any way, shape, or form? Were there specific challenges to this scene?
I think they were the performance were very good. So they were together in the scene. So when you are hearing the audio of him, the overlap is doing in real time. So that helped a lot to the performances in a way, because if you try to reconstruct that overlapping, it's very complex for the actor, to more in this kind of intimacy scene. Yeah.
Yeah, you get a way more natural.
It wasn't hard. It wasn't hard to cut. It wasn't hard to cut because the performances were amazing, I think.
Okay. And also to you, the question: how did you become the editor on this particular project?
This was a very crazy situation, because sometimes we know the producer or we know the director, so we worked before with. Yeah. In this case, I was almost arriving to the States, and I received a message through my Vimeo page. So the person who is sending that doesn't know me at all. So was the director. Said, you're Pablo, you did this film and our film, and I want to call you. And that's the way I started to cut this project.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing this clip with us. Again, we'll be back with you as well. I'd like to proceed to Monica Mugo from Kenya. Would love to see the clip that you brought. Do you need to set it up? Can you tell us what it's from and what we'll be seeing?
Yeah, the reason I chose this particular film in particular scene, it's because it's based on a true story as much as it was executed as a fiction film. And it's about a photographer, a well-achieved photographer who wins a lot of awards, lives a full life, but later he develops a disease called Alzheimer's dementia, and all his memories start fading away. He can't tell the difference between his real son and his grandson, and the difference between the daughter-in-law. And so I found it interesting because, especially for us filmmakers and artists, we live a full life only for such a thing to happen, and all you can remember, according to the film, all he could remember was the memory of his dead wife, but anything else he could not remember. So he was reliving that moment. Yeah.
Awesome. Let's roll that clip.
Guka. Guka. Unakumbuka jina yangu?
What? Is that a rhetorical question?
Thank you so much. So, can you tell us how you became the editor on that particular project?
Yes, so what happened, had done a project with the producer before, and so when they had this film, it was commissioned by Showmax, and she called me again, and that's how I came into the project, and it was edited in less than 2 weeks, everything. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. We're moving on to Laurent's clip. Laurent, you brought a clip as well from Ghost Trail, I think. Can you tell us a little bit about that and the clip you chose?
Yeah, it's the last movie I edited, and it has been released in France, but it's going to be released in the US next year, I guess. And it's it's a film that is going to be seen all over the world because they worked well, the distribution company, and it's a story of. It's based on a true story. It's a victim of Bashar al-Assad regime, and he's part of a group. The story is like that. They are trying to find and to find the real identity of a former executioner who is pretending to be a victim and hiding in Europe. And they think that he must be in Germany, but the main character in the movie, Hamid, he is thinking that no, maybe he's in Strasbourg, close to the border. Strasbourg is a city in France. So all the movie is a spy movie, and all the scenes are really about glances and spying and following this guy who is maybe the executioner, because they never saw his face. They only have the voice and maybe the smell and all this. So it's a movie, very very organic movie, very sensitive, and it's all about sensations and impressions and all this. And this scene is breaking all that because it's a face-to-face, it's a reverse shot where they are eating together, and you're going to understand with the clip. They are. It's a very complex scene, but I will talk about it later. Let's see the clip. It may be a bit long because it's a 10 minutes scene. I put 4 minutes of them here, but we can cut it whenever you want.
Thanks, Laurent. Let's roll that clip.
Pas du jour? C'est ça? Oui. Non, hummus. Hummus? Merci.
Thanks so much for sharing that clip of that film that is going to be out across the globe in the next year. So why did you pick this one, and what is your story with it?
This movie, because I really like this movie, and it's a way also to talk about something else than Anatomy of a Fall, because I have been talking about it a lot. And this scene, for me, it was really interesting because it was pretty like in Heat. It's my tribute to Michael Mann's The Master, because it's a very unlike scene in that movie, and it was very interesting because it's pretty easy to edit this scene because the acting was good, and it was very not complex to edit, but it's the most complex scene in the movie because they are acting. The executioner is charming, is really alive, but also very paranoid, and we can see that he's like asking weird questions. That it can be discovered that the hero maybe is not that student but a spy. So for me, it was interesting to talk about this particular thing. Sometimes a whole movie is really hard to do, but the scene that is maybe in the center of it, the best scene of it, can be really not easy, but very simple and pleasant to work on. But all the rest was a nightmare to fix. So and for me, it's really interesting to that kind of scene because it's all about to be precise and to be really looking. It's like a fighting scene, at this point of the movie is putting together all the two obsessed characters, and they are like that you want to cut at this image precisely. It's not the next one. It's really like a boxing scene at some point. Danny, your scene is pretty different, of course, but for me, that dialogue scene. It can be dialogues can be a gunfight. That's what I would say.
I'm just entranced by what you're saying about it's the perfect scene, because I just want to start a dialogue about that, but I find with every movie I do, there's one scene like that and it just works. It's perfect. And you never have to recut it or do it again, whereas you might struggle with the rest of the film, but there's one perfect moment, and this is your perfect moment. It's lovely.
You know where to be exactly, and it's that kind of scene.
Yeah. And they're a gift, aren't they?
Yeah. But I hope you see the movie.
Oh, I'd love to.
So can you tell us, Laurent, how you became the editor on this particular project?
Yes. In fact, I met the director. It's a first film. It's a first feature film of the director. And I met him because very early in the process, he was part of a group where you have you are reading the script and you are sharing the step you're in, and so it was a very harsh discussion about the project, and it was like not the first draft, but maybe one of the first versions of the script. And we had this discussion. I was really happy to provide all I thought that could be great, but also that was not working for me at this step. And later on, before the Justin Triet Palme d'Or, some weeks before that, he called me and told me, I think that if you want to edit it, it could be great because I will have a lot of questions, and that's what I need for this movie. And so I said, let's go.
Awesome. Just on a side note, is that something that happens to you regularly? That you're being involved in the development stage of a script still?
With the directors that I'm working with in a very long relationship, yes, of course they are having me reading the scripts very early and very often. But here it was the first time that I was like a member of a jury for. No, it's not jury. It's you're supposed to help. It's a workshop, so it was the first time, and it was clearly for me the best project, even if there was so many issues about it at this stage. But but it's good to be able to give our opinion on the script, because after that we could really have the same problems, but they are becoming heavier in the editing room.
Right.
You know that.
Absolutely. Okay, just going to the last clip that we have today, which Atsu-san brought. So Atsu-san, do you want to set that clip up?
OK。日本語で話します。この作品は、日本では珍しい、配信のサービスが最近できたんですが、コピーライト書いてあるロードステッドっていうサービスの作品になります。で、大きなプロダクションがついての制作ではなかったので、監督の、作風を、引き出しながら作れる、作家性の強い作品を作ることができるプロジェクトでした。この映画の監督は、黒沢清さんといって、日本で有名なホラー映画の監督になります。ホラー映画として初めて編集した作品。
So it's called Chime, I believe, the movie?
Yes, Chime.
The movie is called Chime, so let's roll that clip.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you. Can you fill us in on the dialogue at the end there? Because we didn't have the subtitles on there.
お願いします。すごいストーリーがちょっと、ストーリーの話を少しお話しさせてください。まず、主人公の男は、何か事件を起こしています。で、最後に会った中年の男性は、ポリス、刑事になります。で、主人公は、はじめの部屋の中で何か恐ろしいものを見た後、外に逃げてくるんですが、その後に、警察に会って、で、自らその警察に、捜索願いが出されているんですよね、というふうに、罠をかける、鎌をかけるっていうセリフになっています。
Awesome. So can you explain to us how you became the editor on this particular project?
はい。まず、この監督は私が、大学院に通っていた時の、教授、先生になります。で、彼が大学院の教授を辞めた後に自由に作品をたくさん作れるようになって、そのうちの一つの作品で、知り合いのプロデューサーから、声をかけてもらいました。はい。その電話をもらって、私は、その、黒沢監督が好きだったので、とても喜びました。
Awesome. And thank you so much for sharing that clip with us. It's really cool to see all these different stories from around the world. I have a question though, and maybe that's a good one to start with Monica, but all of you feel free to sort of comment, but I'm trying to direct this at Monica first, which is, would you say there are specific ways of editing stylistically, or maybe just on a practical level, the way you work, that are specific to your local regional industry compared to like what you're seeing abroad or internationally, considering that you're also moving into these more international productions?
I would say there are there are different ways to editing. The styles are different. Majorly because I come from a background of documentaries, which also helped this story a lot. And the way the Britain, let's say abroad, Europe edits is different from the way East Africa edits, and it's different from the way West Africa, which I'm currently supervising a project, edits, and the way South Africa edits. That's one factor that I came to realize. And South Africa edits more like the British, and it also depends if you're doing mainstream and those who are doing cinema, their editing style are totally different. Yeah.
So is that something that you had to find out while working on these productions, or is that something that is just known and understood already?
It's not known per se. You experience it as you're working on a project, because the local productions work different. They have different structures from the international productions, which have adopted a Western style of editing and storytelling, the same way with directing. So the director you get, according to his vision and his style, will dictate your style of editing. Yeah.
Right. And you'll have to adapt somehow to that.
Yes, you really have to adapt.
Can I ask Pablo, because you've been working in Argentina and Spain a lot, and you are now based in Los Angeles, so you have sort of seen both a South American, both a European, and then a North American way of working. Probably, have you encountered differences in that sense?
It depends on the director and on the project, no? Because it's very different from, you can say there's a Spain style of editing or some kind of, but if I must find a difference between the US and maybe Argentina is very similar to Spain. In a way, we have less resources, so the low budget made us to do everything, just the temp mix, the VFX. It's like you need to do all, because especially for the preview screening or something like that, you don't have assistant. You have an assistant, but you don't have, for example, the music. It's very common that an editor in Argentina pick the music or recommend the music or recommend temp tracks. So it's very common that here in America is more, you have more specific areas. No, it's like some people, you have a music supervisor, you have a sound mixer who prepared the all, for the screening or something like that. So it's more, I think the editors here have more time for editing. But I'm not telling this is bad, no, because you can also find very good movies in Europe and in Argentina. So it depends on the purpose of the project, no? Is in a way, I think in art the important thing is the purpose. No, I don't believe in evolution in art. So for that, I think maybe a couple of guys can make a movie in 4 weeks and it's amazing. You know, it's like, but for sure they need to prepare more before because they are gonna have only one shoot, only one ballet.
Mm-hmm.
So it's more difficult. It's more difficult. That's are the main differences. But also it's like something generic, you know, because even in Argentina you can find productions like mainstream productions in Argentina, you know, that are very different if you are editing, for example, with Lucrecia Martel or something like that. It's very different, you know. In a way, and this is a paradoxical thing, the small movies or the more artistic movies, the movies that want to achieve an experience instead of a plot, smart plot or something like that, they have more time, more time to discover, more time to play, more time to make mistakes, and from the mistakes understand something, you know. And the mainstream movies are, you have a schedule very tight, and you need to be efficient and obtain results. In a way, it's like, yeah, it's like a movie that you already know how to do it and you do it.
Gotcha. So you mentioned assistants, and that's an interesting one to ask as well. So what we've heard over the years is that I think the roles that assistant editors play differ wildly, like per production type, but also in various parts of the world. So in some cases, they are just there to prepare the dailies for the editor, and then may not even be on the project until the end. On US shows, obviously, it's way more common to have more than one assistant and have them to be there for the entire ride until the movie is delivered. And then obviously, there is this trend in many sections of the world where what is called assistant editors are basically doing assembly cuts for like TV shows or even features that then are handed over to editors. So I'm just wondering, maybe that's a good one to ask Azusa first. Is like, what do you consider the position or the role of an assistant editor in your industry?
はい。実は私はアシスタント経験がありませんが、日本にも、たくさん、アシスタントはいます。彼らの仕事は、日々のデータ整理であったりとか、編集の周りにある連絡をつなげてくれる、そういった仕事などをやってます。で、私のような、小さなバジェットの映画とかをよくやる編集者は、大体、フリーランス、所属していないフリーランスという形が多くて、彼らは大体一人でアシスタントがいない状態で編集を進めることが多いです。
Awesome. I'm also wondering, Danny, what has been your experience? Because you have worked at least across 3 continents for a long time. So you may have seen difference in that sense, like in the roles assistant editors play. Could you comment on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all budgetary, really. Comes down to budget. And although it doesn't sound like that in Japan, we always have an assistant. If it's a small budget film, we have one assistant. If it's a large budget film, we have as many as we can get, including support staff. And I've found that across the world. There was a period of time where they tried to get rid of assistants when the crossover from film to nonlinear started, because they said, I mean, you all know the old story. They said that you've got a computer, so why would you need an assistant? But everybody learned quickly that that wasn't the case. So, I mean, I think I find my assistants they're half my team. They're really important to me because they free me up to just be creative and think about the storytelling and the structure and the aesthetics of the film, and they do all the other side of it, which they're very helpful. I find they're 50% of my team, really. Very, very important to me.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But do you involve them in the storytelling part of things as well? Is that an effort you try to make?
Yes, I do, because I like to show what I'm doing, and I do give them things to cut if they want to, if they have time. Depends on the budget, of course. But yeah, I do involve them because I was going to ask if you get lonely. Do you get lonely when you work on your own? Because I love to work with someone. If I haven't got a director with me, I love to have someone I can feed back off, and they feed back off me technically as well. So it's a symbiotic relationship. So I like to say, what do you think of this scene? Is this working? Because you know, when you see it through someone else's eyes, you see it cleanly, as objectively as you can.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a very valid remark. Monica, can you comment on how that is in Kenya? Do you work with assistants, or have you assisted, or how does that work in the Kenyan industry? And maybe even that's different on, like, because you're now also like a post-production coordinator, I think, on a Netflix show. Are there differences there in how you used to work vis-a-vis like streamers coming in and doing these more international productions?
First, the industry we're in, I would say, to just add on what Daniel said, it also depends with the knowledge the head of department has and the producer, because the main challenge we are facing right now across East Africa and West Africa, it's that it's in post production where they make money. So if they cut the budget for assistant editors, they are able to save more money, you know. So when you hear them say, when you hear a producer say, I want an editor, they mean they want some designer, they want a colorist, they want a VFX, they want an editor, you know, you're able to do all that. And on top of that, you're supposed to do it in 1 week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks maximum. That's according to some of the mainstream, you know, distributors like Showmax, you know. But now when you come to Netflix gives you the option. It has like I've worked on few one feature film that I was the assistant, and I was given like I was there from the pre-production all the way to the end of the project, and we had ample time. However, right now we have like a whole year plus, you know, and you're given the ability to decide how the schedule is going to work. You're able to decide how much time the sound designer needs. You know, you have as a post supervisor, I have the choice, you know, to allocate each vendor enough time. But when you look at it as a whole, it kind of restrains, you know, the creativity, because as an editor who's doing all those things, you're limited. Your knowledge is limited. You're not able to stretch your knowledge and your creativity. So at that point, you're just pumping out, you know, and you'll find a producer saying that the audience doesn't need creativity. They just need to know the story.
So I was going to go ask Laurent. Laurent, have you seen a change regarding the roles that assistant editors play in your industry, or maybe on a more global scale?
It's pretty like Danny said in France. In fact, the production companies are trying to have less and less assistant editor beside us, but it's not they also have understood that it's they are really important, and they they are totally part of the success of the process. And in France, what I can see now is that for the mainstream and big budget films, you have less time, as Pablo said. For the US, you have less time, but you may have an assistant all the way through, because you have to be efficient. But for the feature films I tend to work on, more artistic and all this, the time is pretty long. You have time to make your research, to find something, but very often the assistant cannot stay for the production company. It's beginning weird to have them for months and months aside you to help. And I must confess that sometimes it's not helpful because you are really after the assembly when you are gathering with the director, you have a period of time, a long time where maybe you will not have enough work to give to your assistant. But they're really for me. The best situation is when you can discuss this and have them when you want them, when they are able to give you time, when you're it's great when you can have this it's like assets because it's so artisanal, you have to find sometimes a solution to get the best of a material, and sometimes it's a way to organize it, and it's or to to select things or even to pre-edit or make some editing for us. For me, it could be really great to have them. So what I'm doing in France is that I'm asking for like an amount of weeks with an assistant, and I am dealing with the schedule with the production company and the assistant. But it's pretty hard to have them all the way through today for feature film.
So on a related level, who decides how much time you get to spend on a particular project? Or maybe it's a good one to ask Pablo.
Who decide that?
Who decides how much time you get to?
I believe when the editors cut on film, they could decide more, no? Because it was like a team, no? Like a closest team. But nowadays, for example, in Argentina, the time for is very tight, no? For example, they said, okay, you have 12 weeks, 8 weeks for shooting, and 4 weeks for the final cut. And most of the films follow that. And was, for example, the assistants works only during the shooting and after the editing. So like they just work during the turnarounds and the beginning with the sync and preparing all the project, all the beans or something like that. But yeah, I think in a way, as editor, we are losing control or something like that. No, it's like that kind of question that you are asking. It's like we don't have control for that anymore.
Right.
We can't decide that.
Right. And Monica, just wondering, you sort of alluded to it already, but I think we're all seeing the industry globalizing and like streamers producing local or regional content in various parts of the world for the streaming services to be distributed worldwide. That may change the way people work in a certain way. Have you seen anything like that? So have like practices changed due to the influence of streamers arriving in your industry?
Yeah, it's changing and it's taking shape pretty fast because we have a new generation of filmmakers and the incorporation and integration of international studios and partners who are working across the continent. Like now we're able to do it remotely. So the structures have become easier to incorporate. And the producers and directors are also willing to explore. And the more they're incorporating the structures and allowing people to grow, it also becomes an added advantage to the production. Especially Netflix has really helped with that because it's a necessity to them. They want you to incorporate that because they know the production value it brings on the table. Yeah.
Right. And maybe that's also an interesting question to ask Azusa. How do you see that? Do you see like a change in the way you guys work, or the practicalities of the industry shifting due to like globalization and international influence?
はい。日本では、そうですね。編集のチームを組むっていうことが今までなかったんですけども、ネットフリックスとかからは、一人の編集技師と一人のアシスタントではなくて、複数のチームを作ってほしいというふうに言われることがあります。これは、なんていうか、ストリーミングの影響かなと思います。
Are there any changes you are seeing happening in the industry or in the various industries you've been a part of and are a part of? Are there any sort of like shifts happening at this point?
Well, I think the industry is becoming more globalized. So I've been thinking about some of the questions that have been put forward. I feel like, obviously there's a very strong Japanese film industry, a very strong Kenyan film industry, a very strong French film industry, but because of streaming, everything is becoming international. So I can sit in a cutting room in the middle of the South Coast and stream to America and vice versa. It's really, so I guess that's a big change. That is a big change. But I also wonder how each country holds on to their uniqueness as well with all of that globalization. And one thing that we're trying to do down here is we're trying to keep quotas of Australian content and Australian stories part of our storytelling and our funding and our film literacy, basically. But we also need to tell Australian stories that are interesting to an international audience as well, because in the end, that's what counts. So I guess that's what I've noticed. That's the biggest change I've been seeing over there last couple of years.
Monica, would you agree with that? Like, is it or is there a challenge in protecting, preserving the existing cinematic culture of your region with those with that globalization happening?
Yeah, it's very important. It's very critical because at the end of the day, the editors are the custodians and they are also the gatekeepers. You have to make sure that you're also trying to preserve both sides as much as you're also trying to incorporate the international audience. You're also trying to make sure the story remains as local as possible. Yeah, so I agree with Danny.
Laurent, here's another question for you, maybe. So, what do you consider are the biggest challenges in your work right now, or the ones you see like in the foreseeable future? What's I don't know. Is there a fight you have to fight, or something you have to struggle with right now, or soon?
For me, the most important thing for me, because I'm editing feature film, artistic, valuable films. For me, it's time and assistance. It's something that we are always fighting on, having the time to explore and to be sure that when you get out of this room, all questions have been asked and all tries had been done. So for me, this is always this time and means how to do the best film with the money that we can have to do it. So, and it's in France we really have a powerful position of the directors. They are really powerful. They are the owner of the movie. It's not the producer in France. They are sharing this responsibility, but also this signature. So we have time, we have a great industry, but we are always fighting for these things to get. Even if we cannot complain, if we are looking all around the world, we have a pretty good industry and mechanism, but we have to fight to keep it like that, and even if it's possible, when it's possible to improve it and make it better.
Pablo, I saw you nodding quite severely, so I was wondering whether you were agreeing extremely, or is that something you recognize?
Yeah. For example, in Argentina, we used to have a lot of cinema that was very similar to France. So France was like our model, like the resistance, in a way. But now, with the new government, is out. So we are going to have more movies dependent on streamers and less independent productions. I think that, and if you lose that independence, and if you lose that we can show movies in a movie theater, the language will change. You notice that also in all the streamers. The language is more simple because maybe the attention deficit, or maybe because the people look movies while they're watching their phones. So it's very dangerous. So we need to preserve the experience, the experience.
The theatrical experience, right?
Yes. We are not just telling stories. We are just sharing experiences.
Gotcha. Danny, there's a thing I wanted to ask you, and maybe the others can chime in. Because there is going to be a lot of younger editors or students who want to be an editor. Do you have any tips or advice for them? Or maybe this is an interesting way to phrase it. Is there a thing you wish someone would have told you when you were starting out or right before it?
I don't, there's nothing I wish that someone had told me, but the two things I learned were, and I would impart this to a younger editor, is trust your gut, trust your instinct completely. Don't be afraid of trusting your instinct, but also be humble about that, because you will quite often find your instincts are correct, but there's ways of working with that with other people. And so always be humble about your position and how you work with people. And gosh, I don't remember the beginning of the question. Sorry.
No, but this is very good. This is very good. I mean, it's about trying to inform people starting out about ways you think to probably give them some sort of advice. And I think this is great advice that you're giving them.
Yeah, it's that thing. When washing up, just wash up. So if you're sinking dailies, do it as well as you can. And if you do that really well, someone's going to notice that you're good and you're reliable and that they want you around. So you will then progress to doing something more with more responsibility, and then you will progress to becoming an editor, and then be as good an editor as you can and as collaborative and as intelligent as you can about it. And then you will progress further, and maybe if you're lucky like Laurent, and you will progress way high. It's all about being in the right spot, but also when you're there, doing it as well as possible, I think.
It's very, very solid advice. Thank you for that. I was wondering, Asusa, do you have a comment on that as well? Would you have any tips or advice for people starting out?
ですね、最近の映画は、作品は VFX とか CG とかがたくさんあって、初めアシスタントをするときはそのリストを大量に作らなきゃいけないので、それが辛いこともあるんですけど、その先に編集技師への道が続いているので、諦めないで続けてほしいなって思ってます。
Yeah, it's like they said, when washing up, just wash up. So if you're sinking dailies, do it as well as you can. And if you do that really well, someone's going to notice that you're good and you're reliable and that they want you around. So you will then progress to becoming an editor, and then you will progress to becoming
That's very good advice. Thank you so much. I have another question, which is, and that is to each of you, but I'm going to start with Monica. And that is, would there be a film, a movie, or a show that you would recommend to other editors around the world from your local regional industry that you think we should watch? It could be one of your own, could be something completely different, but a movie from your own sort of cultural background and region that you think editors or filmmakers across the world should be watching.
Yeah. Since I'll just go generally Africa. Right now, I would recommend Shaka Ilembe. It's very well executed, represent the culture. It maintains all the aesthetic values of African culture, as well as the technology of filmmaking and innovation of cinema. Everything incorporated. I would recommend that. It's a series. Yeah.
Gotcha. Thanks for that. I think we should gather the IMDb links to these movies so people may try and see if where they can check them out. A similar question to Pablo.
From Argentina, I do recommend, of course, all Lucrecia Martel films, all Leonardo Fabio films. That he was a very good director, and we have a very good industry. For example, the last year was a very good film, The Delinquents, that was in Certain Regard from Rodrigo Moreno. That was amazing, an amazing picture. So, yeah, but there's a very good cinema in Argentina.
Laurent, do you have a recommendation of a French film we should all be checking out that may have slipped under our radar?
I don't know if you can see it because it's I don't know how is it spread in the world, but it's a French movie I really enjoyed called Bruno Redal. It was in Cannes maybe 3 or 4 years ago in International Critics Week. Bruno Redal, it's a very amazing movie about it's a trial in the past about a priest who is not acting well, and it's his confession. It's a voiceover, and you have this French landscape in the, I don't know, maybe it's in the 19th century, and it's a very amazing movie, very powerful, very nice. But I also recommend a movie that I edited, but it was released during the COVID, and it was not a good release, but it's a very nice movie. It's Onoda. It's about a Japanese soldier who had continued fighting for 30 years after 45 peace, and it's a French and Japanese movie, and it's a very interesting one, but nobody has seen it, so it's a shame.
Thank you for that recommendation. Same for Azusa. Do you have a recommendation of a Japanese film we should definitely check out that we may have missed or may not have gotten the recognition you think it deserves?
昔の映画なんですが、清黒沢のキュアっていうホラー映画です。
Great. And then Danny, I have the same question for you. Is there a movie from your neck of the woods that we should definitely check out?
Yeah, and it took a while to remember it, but a film that I saw about a year ago called Limbo. It's a black and white film directed by Ivan Sen, interestingly edited by the director. It stars Simon Baker. It's a really fabulous movie, slow burn. It's called Limbo.
Super. Yeah. Thank you so much for that recommendation. There's this question that I have that is really out of my own personal curiosity. And maybe that's a thing that's changing in your industry, but can you comment on how you deal with notes these days? Like maybe does that even change, like when you work on more local or regional productions versus more global productions? Like we alluded to that a little bit, but what is your approach to dealing with those notes? Maybe that's a good one for Pablo to start.
I think you need to learn to work with notes, no? Because sometimes at first, when we start in this business, maybe the ego start, though it's very complex to find that kind of approach. But I think sometimes a bad note can bring a good idea. No, you trying to fix something that doesn't need any fix, you find a different approach to something. I think we need to be open. The main problem is when the notes are made like maybe full of assumptions, and it's like, maybe it's when also you can watch, you can see this kind of things in the streamers, that they are afraid of everything. So they're afraid that the people can understand something or something like that. Those kind of notes are very dangerous, because in a way they are trying to create like a virtual audience that is more stupid than the real audience, and this is not good. But we need to hear the notes and find the good path to find creative solution. No, imagination is always the way out, even for the really stupid note.
But on a practical level, how do you deal with that? So when you get notes where you think like, well, you're not taking the audience seriously enough, or you're thinking they're dumb, or you're trying to over-explain or be overly clear, how do you go about it when a note like that lands on your desk?
I think you need to try everything in a way. No, I am not a person that think first. You need to try. You need to try. I try to avoid my prejudices and start working. But the problem with that is, if you allow several notes and several fears, you lose the direction. You lose the director, the point of view. No, and the digression sometimes in a film is more important than the progression. So if you start judging all things, then the real creativity goes away, because it's like they starting to be, the fear that they have is contagious. So we start thinking, nobody will understand this. And in that way, I think, okay, we need to work in this industry and we get used to these notes. But in my particular experience, I'm very grateful when I receive a very good note for something creative. Maybe you share with some filmmaker and it is a different point of view, and you realize there's a mistake or a good approach. But when you find these kind of notes that they're always, that current the film, pushing the film for the same side that we were talking about, that the people is stupid or something like that you need to simplify things, I think it's a problem. Because I think all of you, when you watch some movies in all these platform that we have in our TVs, sometimes after 10 minutes, you already know the end. You already know where the story goes, because it's too logical and there's not real exploration there, And so when you have that, you're losing real storytelling, that is sharing experiences and sharing something more complex. And if you lose that, in a way, our societies become ill, because we need that art to understand a lot of things about ourselves.
Gotcha. Just wondering, Monica, can you relate to that? I mean, does that what other people are saying? Can you comment on how you deal with notes, or do you have any sort of thoughts or tips on how to deal with those notes?
Yeah, actually, we've been having a lot of challenges when it comes to that, to a point that you have to choose who owns the story, who's telling, who's the voice of the story, because that's what matters first, and then the audience comes second, you know. So we found ourselves at a point whereby Netflix is giving notes. This one is giving notes. This one is giving notes. So, as an editor, if you have a good director who understands why you're doing what you're doing, you decide which to pick and which one not to pick, you know, so that at the end of the day, which note adds more value to the story and preserves the integrity of the story. And then everyone else will fall in line with that. Yes, it might not be okay with the producer, you will not please this person and that person, but at the end of the day, what is important for the story, and then everyone else can build on that. I would say learn as much as you can about what concerns other departments. If you could understand writing, you could understand cinematography here and there, you know, having those basics kind of helps you as an editor to understand how to tell the story and compositions here and there, you know, understand color here and there. Because at the end of the day, you are the one fixing what other people and polishing what everyone else has done, you know, in post production. And so kind of builds that good foundation. It's not easy, but it takes dedication and you pouring your spirit on there. All stories are not the same, so there's no specific approach to each project. So just go as a canvas and build it from there.
That concludes our international panel for today at Editfest Global. I want to thank you, our panelists, so much for taking the time to be with us today across various time zones from different continents all around the world, sharing your experiences, your stories, your points of view about our wonderful craft. So thank you so much. To the audience, I want to say thank you so much for attending today. Also, I hope you feel inspired to check out some of the work of our panelists, the movies and shows they worked on, the movies and shows they recommended in our panel. Hope you will check them out. I think it's important to see what is being made and told around the world, because stories are what unites us, and it's so important for humankind. It's inspiring, etc. Don't forget to check out the Global Editing's Perspective podcast that will be out soon on ACE's YouTube channel. Thank you so much again. Have a great Editfest Global. Hope to see you soon.